when the agents cuffed me under my dead daughter's name. I didn't cry. I memorized every badge number. At 68, I've learned grief can be weaponized, but so can truth. That night, I swore they'd spell my name right before sunrise. This was only the beginning. It was one of those damp Charleston nights when the air itself seemed to hum. The kettle was sighing on the stove, and my pill organizer sat open next to a cup of mint tea. I kept the radio low, old Motown, the kind that fills the silence but doesn't disturb it. Nights like this had a rhythm. Tea, a crossword, checking the locks twice. I lived a tidy life since Harold passed. Retired, private, ordinary. I minded my business, paid my taxes, and went to bed before midnight. That night, the rain brushed against the shutters, and I could almost taste the marsh through the open window. Selene's picture sat beside the phone, her smile frozen at 29. Her number was still saved as my girl. I never deleted it. At my age, you don't waste a good night's rest unless your heart refuses to sit still. I'd learned to live with unanswered questions, but lies had a way of knocking. Both phones lit up at once. Landline first, then my cell. The name glowing on the screen. Solène. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd imagined it. My spoon slipped, clinking against porcelain. The breath in my chest went brittle. It was cruel. Whatever prank this was, "That's not funny," I whispered, half to the rain. "Don't you dare." I stared at the caller ID. Same digits, same contact photo. The funeral replayed in my head. The coffin, the folded note, the phone laid inside for closure. I let it ring twice more before pressing answer. My voice came steady. "This is Marvell St. James. Who is calling from my daughter's phone?" Silence. A soft hiss, like rain inside a tunnel. Then a voice, familiar, nearly right but not quite, said, "Mom, I don't have much time." I felt the blood drain from my fingertips. The voice carried Selene's rhythm but not her warmth. I tested it like any auditor would test a balance sheet. "If this is Solène," I said, "tell me our bluebird word." There was a pause, too long. "Please, just listen." Oh, it pleaded. I caught something in the background, a hum like a server room or a vent. My instinct screamed wrong. Before I could reply, the call ended. My phone logged, no name. I switched into habit. I snapped a photo of the caller ID, exported logs to my email, checked my carrier's dashboard for spoofing. Nothing out of order. Even my voicemail sounded different, compressed, almost artificial. I checked my porch cam feed. Nothing but rain and the neighbor's oak swaying. "Fool me once." "No, ma'am," I muttered. Then another ping, a text, same number, a photo thumbnail glowed, a dim room I didn't recognize. I didn't open it. I previewed metadata. Timestamp valid, location blank. Suspicious. I forwarded it to my private archive. "Prove identity." "Bluebird," I replied. 3 dots appeared. Then a photo came through. A bracelet, silver, scratched along the clasp. The same bracelet I buried with her. My voice dropped to a whisper. "If you used her grave for this, I'll make the sun shine on you." The memory crashed in. The funeral day, storm warning, the pastor's prayer barely audible over the thunder. I remembered laying that bracelet myself. Solène had nicked it years ago slicing lemons. Nobody else knew that. This wasn't a scammer, this was personal. "I was born at night," I said under my breath. "But not last night." I documented every piece, photos, timestamps, text thread, copied all to a USB drive. I froze my credit, changed the Wi-Fi passphrase, unplugged the smart speaker. Then I texted Detective Leora Penn. "Unusual activity from S's number. Quiet look. Please." I wrote a neat email to the funeral home requesting access logs. Finally. I turned Solène's photo face down. Not to erase her, but to block whoever was using her memory as bait. At 12:31, the doorbell buzzed once. Porch cam lit up. A figure in a rain hood stood there. The phone vibrated again. Another image from the same number. My porch. Right now. "Neighborly curfew's 9, I said through the door. "Try me again and we'll let the badge handle it." The figure slipped an envelope through the slot. I tore a corner open. A single silver bead rolled into my palm. My pulse steadied. Then the phone rang once more. Caller ID, Selene. I answered. Bluebird or police? I said, a voice replied, calm and low. You already called the police. Mom. And spoke Detective Leora Penn's name. The voice on the line said Detective Leora Penn's full name and badge number before I could even speak. That detail hit harder than any ghost story ever could. I tapped the second line and looped Leora in on speaker. You've got 10 seconds, I said flatly. Say the Bluebird word, or I hang up. Static filled the space, like a storm caught between signals. Mom, please. That same soft pitch. Close but never right. No password, strike one. My phone buzzed with Leora's text. Record, don't provoke, keep them talking. I breathed slow, let my voice flatten to calm. Where are you calling from? Silence. Then a faint exhale. Human. Close. The line died. Porch cam showed only drizzle over asphalt. No figure, no light. I logged the timestamp and saved the audio clip. The envelope still sat on the kitchen table. Rain speckled from the slot. I slipped on gloves and eased it open. Inside, one silver bead and a freshly printed funeral program. The scent of toner was new. Not 18 years old. Someone had run a reprint tonight. A sticky note clung to the back cover. Listen again. My old voicemail access code scrawled in block letters. I didn't call from my smartphone. Instead, I pulled the old landline from the guest room. No Wi-Fi, no cloud, no trace. You don't bring a muddy dog into your good living room, I muttered. Dialing slow. The line crackled to life like a ghost waking up. You have one saved message, said the metallic voice. Then Selene's laugh spilled out, light, careless, from 2006. But under it, something new. A low hum. Mechanical, not part of any old tape. I replayed it twice. Catching rain hiss mixed in. Same pitch as the storm outside. Impossible. I counted her breaths, off by half a beat. Artificial rhythm. You're not haunting me, I said to the empty room. Someone's splicing my dead child. I exported the audio to a USB recorder and signed the file log like an auditor closing a case. A motion alert blinked red. Side yard. I killed the lights and moved quiet toward the window. A smear of mud streaked the sill. A heel print, narrow, fresh. Through the glass, a rain hood silhouette hovered, still as a shadow. Wrong house. Wrong mother, I whispered. I lifted my phone camera, caught the flash reflection. Their outline ghosted in pale gray, then vanished. A car door slammed. Tires rolled low over the wet street. I switched back to discipline mode. Timeline on paper, call, envelope, voicemail, window. Patterns meant motive. I wrote 3 names. Dr. Tavian Quell, funeral home staff, Narissa Cade. Each had access to Solene's remains. I texted Leora the photos. Sit tight, lock up, save all data. She replied. I placed the bead and reprinted program in a lockbox. Slid it into my oven, metal walls, no wireless reach. At 68, I said, half smiling. I've got fewer marbles, but better drawers to keep them in. I power cycled my router, hid the network, pulled every smart plug and speaker from the wall. Analog wins over clever. I checked my carrier logs. No new SIM activity, meaning whoever spoofed her number worked upstream. I emailed all evidence to my shadow archive, blind copying Leora. Coffee brewed dark in the quiet. Old bones don't outrun trouble, I told myself. They outlast it. Then came the knock. Gentle, deliberate. A text buzzed, a live photo of my kitchen window from outside, time-stamped seconds ago. I lifted my phone so its red record light glowed. Law says stand your ground starts with your mind, I said evenly. The figure leaned, phone screen flashing a logo from one of Narissa's tech ventures. A car whooshed by, light cutting between us. Their shape jittered, then disappeared into the dark. I sat back down and opened Narissa's profile online. Same startup logo, voice tech firm. Her post bragged about reviving lost voices. My jaw tightened. I traced her LLC registration to a storage unit outside Savannah. I texted her, return what was taken, stop using Solene's number. She replied with a heart emoji, then a voice note. You're not the only one who misses her. I saved it without playing, sent it to Leora. She blinked. I wrote, The house fell silent. My landline clicked once. A new message appeared, dated 2006. "Bluebird," my daughter's voice said, slurred through distortion, vowels bending like wax. The room tone behind it clicked in rhythm, synthetic and cold. I looked at the silver bead bagged on the counter, its surface catching the light. "I was born with eyes open," I said. The night air smelled of wet oak and salt. I stepped onto the porch, whispered, "Try me in daylight." The camera chimed, new photo uploaded. My own face stared back from 6 inches outside the glass. By sunrise, the sky over Charleston looked scrubbed clean, as if the storm had never happened. Leora sat on my porch, nursing her coffee, her badge glinting faintly in the light. I handed her the evidence bag, the silver bead inside catching the dawn like a quiet secret. My notes, the screenshots, the call logs, all of it went into her leather folder. We spoke low and steady. "You lead emotions, I lead process," she said. I nodded. "I'm not here to swing. Leora, I'm here to see. Act." We both signed the chain of custody form, took a photo for record. Her eyes landed on the startup logo we'd caught in the footage. "That's Nerissa's circle," she said. I poured more coffee. "Then let's follow the ring." The first stop was the carrier store. The young clerk, all piercings and politeness, printed out my history with care. No SIM swap, no forwarding. Just a neat column of clean transactions. "Spoofers can bounce off foreign servers," he said. "The system's good, not perfect." I leaned in. "Paper still talks. Son, print me the logs." He smiled, probably thinking I was old-fashioned. Maybe I am. But old habits catch crooks faster than apps. Leora drew a line across one timestamp, the same moment my porch cam had pinged last night. "Whoever did this," she said, "was close enough to smell the rain." We moved next to North Charleston, to a repurposed mill where one of Nerissa's shell companies leased space. On the state registry, her name hid behind a friend's LLC. I saw it instantly. The reprint shop address matched the footer on my daughter's funeral program. "They're efficient," I murmured, "but not careful." The property manager unlocked the suite. "Tenant left early this morning," he said. "Didn't leave a key." Leora showed her badge, and he stepped aside. Inside, the air smelled of ozone and burnt plastic, too clean to be accidental. Foam panels covered the walls. A whiteboard stood covered in phonetic notes. SLB. Bluebird circled twice. My stomach clenched. On the desk, a single rack server left a dust outline. The machine itself gone. The corkboard held printed sound maps, spectrograms comparing Solène 2006 to Solène 2024. Perfectly aligned, but wrong, like a mask smiling too wide. "They rehearsed my child," I whispered, like a song. Leora bagged a small thumb drive labeled Training. We found an invoice marked Grave Audio Artifacts. My hands trembled. Not from fear, but fury. Some things you bury to rest, others to protect. In the closet, shoe prints dotted with cemetery grit, gloves and a funeral home visitor sticker. On the windowsill, a streak of silver polish, the same scent that clung to Solène's bracelet. I photographed it. Each frame another nail in their lie. In the trash, a reprint receipt time-stamped just before the envelope appeared at my door. "She planned it tight," Leora said. I nodded. Tight, but sloppy in spirit. Beneath the desk, taped flat, a note. "Check Savannah unit." The same address I'd circled the night before glared up at me in permanent marker. I dictated a short statement for Leora's file. My tone clipped. "Steady. This isn't grief," I said. "It's theft." Together we filed emergency preservation requests, ISP, copy shop, cameras. I called my lawyer, Harper Drennan. "Freeze every asset tied to Nerissa Cade," I told her. No warning. Harper sighed. "Used to my precision. You're drawing blood with paper again," she said. "Damn right," I replied. "You don't swat flies with a violin. You use a screen door." Leora's grin flickered. "Savannah it is." We locked the loft behind us. The sunlight had warmed the wet pavement outside, but my skin stayed cold. My phone buzzed. A live photo from Solène's number again. The image showed the very room we'd just left, shot from behind us. My own back, Leora's badge. "You took that?" she asked. "No," I said. The door was still chained from the inside. My throat tightened as the clip began to move. My recorded voice said, clear and calm, "Bluebird." By the time we crossed the Talmadge Bridge, the air had turned salt-sweet and still. Leora drove while I sat with my binder open, organizing evidence by hand like the old days, whiteboard photos, timestamps, receipts. "We don't chase shadows," I told her. "We chase paperwork." She nodded, eyes steady on the lanes. The port cranes loomed ahead, skeletons against the river sky. My phone buzzed with a message from Harper confirming subpoenas were in motion. I texted Calla a short line. "I'm safe. Don't worry. No location, no hints." Then Leora frowned at her screen. "A clip's trending. Solen's name?" My stomach clenched. "Play it." The video started before I could brace myself. My daughter, her face, her cadence, speaking like she'd never died. "Mama, I forgive you," she said, voice too clean, syllables too smooth. I felt my jaw lock. The breath pattern was wrong, too even, the sibilance blurred, an AI trying to mimic human imperfection. "They used her like bait," I whispered. Leora caught the upload trail, tracing it to a startup tied to Nerissa's network. "It's spreading fast," she warned. I pressed record on my own phone. "Then we make our record faster." I filed a takedown claim, attached forensic notes proving the manipulation. My voice shook only once. "You don't get to teach the internet my grief." By afternoon, we reached the storage facility near the port. The manager, a man with a drawl and a clipboard, confirmed the unit's lease, paid under a shell company linked to Nerissa's old contractor. Inside, the room smelled of dust and solder. Racks stood stripped bare. A torn shipping label bore an Atlanta address. I spotted a half-empty box of padded mailers, the same kind used to deliver the envelope to my porch. On the floor, a plastic lid held a faint streak of silver polish. I crouched low, tracing it with my glove. "People who clean fast," I said, "always leave the corners dirty." Leora grinned grimly. We bagged the lanyard marked with the Voice Startup's logo and photographed the scuffed hinges before sealing the unit. Next came cleanup. I called Harper again, adding the co-location address to the civil hold. "We're widening the net," she said. "Good," I replied. "Cast it wide enough to choke them." Leora handled digital forensics, new number, wiped accounts. I rotated device IDs and sent copies of our timeline to the district attorney's secure inbox. "I'm not paranoid," I muttered. "I'm prepared," she smiled. "That's why you're alive." Then her phone buzzed. A text tip. Greyhound station, 6 p.m. Red cap. We looked at each other and didn't need words. The station was a hum of lives in motion. Crying children. Diesel breath. A gospel singer by the vending machines. I sat where I could see every reflection in the glass. A young man approached, red cap trembling in his hands. "I labeled clips," he said. "Breaths. Syllables. The way grief sounds between words." His eyes darted. "The data came from a memorial slideshow hack. Funeral homes audio checks. Nobody knew." He slid me a thumb drive. Training_V. I leaned closer. "You're going to email your statement to my lawyer and Detective Penn right now." He nodded, fingers flying. Then he whispered, "They've got one more rig! Atlanta!" Before Leora could react, he bolted. A hooded figure followed. Leora veered right, chasing the shadow through the crowd while I flagged a guard. "Bathroom exit," I said calmly. "Check cameras." She reappeared, breath tight. "Gone, caught a ride." I logged the timestamp, matched it to my phone clock. "You can outrun my knees," I murmured, "but not paper and cameras." Leora smirked through frustration. "Atlanta next?" "Atlanta next," I said, sealing the thumb drive in an evidence pouch. As we walked toward the car, the station PA crackled. My late pastor's voice filled the hall, his 2006 benediction warped into a single word. "Bluebird." The sound folded into static, then back to normal. Leora froze. "They seeded the system," she whispered. My phone pinged, a new upload, the fake farewell video, now blended with my pastor's blessing. I breathed out slow, sharp. Tomorrow, I said, we pull down their altar. Atlanta shimmered like 1,000 mirrors as we rolled downtown. The morning light bounced off every tower, glass and steel pretending to be heaven. Leora tracked coordinates from the training_V file, tapping her pen against the console. Harper's voice filled the car speaker. Subpoenas filed. Judges looped in. You don't chase ghosts, I said, watching the skyline sharpen. You chase their power bills. The IP logs showed consistent pings between 3 and 5 a.m. Proof something inside the city was still talking. I told Leora I needed to walk the perimeter. People hide behind clean glass, I said, across the street. Veda set up her tripod. Rolling for documentation, she said. Let's catch them in daylight. Inside the co-working building, the hum was surgical. Rows of soundproof pods, cables threaded through glass floors, air thick with recycled cool. Leora flashed her badge. The manager hesitated, then unlocked a door marked Bluebird LLC. The smell of ozone and metal hit me first. 2 monitors glowed, a waveform of my voice, layered with Solen's. The playback whispered, "Mom, I don't have much time." My throat tightened, but my hands stayed steady as I filmed the display. They rehearsed my grief like it was a concert. Leora yanked the network uplink. Alarms chirped. I traced my fingers along the glass wall. If they built a temple, I murmured, I'll write its closing sermon. The moment we stepped outside, the ambush hit. Reporters swarmed, flashing mics and phone lights. Mrs. St. James, care to comment on your fabricated calls? Narissa's PR drop had gone live. Edited voicemails spliced with morning monologues, painting me as delusional. The fake empathy made my blood burn. Veda tried countering the narrative, streaming live evidence. But the algorithm favored the spectacle. I faced one camera square on. Truth, I said, has better resolution than gossip. Leora pulled me toward the car, whispering. They're playing dirty, I exhaled. They're burning my name to hide the smoke. Har called, restraining orders in process. I smiled bitterly. Let them sell drama. I sell facts. Back at the hotel, we regrouped. The air smelled of burnt coffee and copy paper. I documented everything again. Timestamps, photos, logs. Veda cross-referenced metadata. It showed Narissa's team was live streaming during the same window the rig ran. Perfect overlap, she said. Leora drafted the affidavit linking Bluebird LLC to Narissa Savannah Shells. I recorded a calm statement for the DA. My voice was stolen, I said. But my mind remains mine. Leora grinned. You can't gaslight a woman who keeps receipts. By evening, Harper confirmed we'd have full subpoena rights by dawn. Then the next move came. A push alert. Narissa Lev from her penthouse. Face lit like a saint's painting. She called it a tribute project, claiming I had given consent. A forged document slid across the stream with my signature, lifted from an old bank check. That's elder fraud in 4K, I said. Harper was already calling the DA. Leora's jaw set. Then Veda hacked in a split screen, our raw footage beside Narissa's fake, proof pixel by pixel. The chat turned. Hashtags flooding, #Bluebird stolen. Narissa's mask cracked mid-smile as her video glitched. Sometimes justice, I whispered, just needs Wi-Fi. By sunset, I sat by the hotel window, coffee cooling in my hand. Atlanta glowed gold in glass. Tomorrow we seize the drives, Leora said. Tomorrow? I answered. We take back her voice. I texted Kala. Your mama's voice is coming home. Veda was editing the exposé for Dawn. Harper was escalating to federal. I locked the USB beside my pendant. Real silver, solid weight. You can't bury a mother's will under code. The phone rang. Private number. I answered and froze. Mom, said Solen's real voice, raw and unfiltered. It's not over. They're not who you think. The trace showed a number tied to Dr. Tavian Quell. Leora's eyes widened. He's in witness protection, I whispered. Then who's been signing the lab reports? The storm rolled through Atlanta like judgment. Rain slapped the windshield as Leora drove us toward the federal lab. Headlights streaking over water-slick roads. Harper had arranged clearance. But when we reached the gate, the night guard leaned into the beam of his flashlight and said, "Doctor, Quell's already waiting." My hands tightened around my purse. Tavian Quell was supposed to be dead, filed and buried in a government database. The sterile white of the entryway doubled our reflections across the glass walls. Every shine a ghost, I thought. People die in databases faster than they do in real life. If Tavian was alive, he was either my last ally or Nerissa's best disguise. He appeared in the corridor, thinner, hair-streaked gray, wearing a federal ID whose edges looked singed. "Vel," he said softly, "I had to vanish. They were killing whistleblowers." He glanced toward Leora, weighing her silence. I was protecting the samples. They used grief as a data set. My breath hitched. "Did you help build my daughter's second voice?" His lips trembled before a sound arrived. Before I understood what they meant to do, I wanted to scream, but the voice that came out was steady. "You don't lose your soul in one day. It's leased out through small favors." He turned to a vault keypad. Inside, a rack hummed under dim blue light labeled Solen_V4_seed. I recognized the seal. The same case number stamped on Solen's autopsy file. Tavian powered a monitor. Graphs bloomed across the screen. "These aren't archival samples," he said. "They're new." The printout showed mitochondrial markers, Solen's DNA, appearing in tests logged just 3 weeks ago. Leora leaned closer. "That's impossible." "Not if someone's replicating voice tissue," Tavian replied. The word replicating cracked through me like thunder. My knees softened, but I held the counter. Harper's voice on speaker turned sharp. "That's Class A biofraud." I looked at the evidence. My child's data reduced to strings of code. "She wanted her daughter to live forever," I whispered. "Even if it killed her again." I called Veda. Ordered every pending release frozen until the sample was secured. Then the alarms began. Red light washed the lab, sirens echoing like heartbeats. Tavian's terminal flashed remote access detected, on screen. The username read Bluebird_admin1. A synthetic voice piped through the intercom. Solen's voice. Twisted. "You're too late, mother!" Tavian lunged for the power breaker, sparks dancing along the rack. I grabbed the core drive, sealed it into an anti-static bag, shouting, "No one speaks her name through a machine!" Foam hissed from the ceiling sprinklers, fogging the glass. Leora yanked my arm. "Move!" I thought of every mother who'd buried a child and still had to fight ghosts. "You can't digitize conscience," I said. "It fries every circuit." When the lights cut, backup power triggered an old audio loop. A fragile voice whispered from the central console. Solen's real voice. Unedited. "Mom, if you hear this, trust no mirrors." Tavian stared at the speaker. "That wasn't in the archives." I felt my pulse climb. "She hid it in home recordings," I murmured. Then the track overlapped. A second voice. Artificial. Mimicking her cadence. Gasping to sync. The loop fractured mid-syllable, ending on a raw goodbye. "She knew," I said. "She left her ghost to warn me." Leora copied the file. Encrypted, handed the drive to Harper's courier unit. We ran through the emergency exit, rain mixing with foam on the asphalt. Federal SUVs screeched into the lot. Agents cuffed Tavian gently, citing protective custody. I pressed the sealed evidence into Harper's hands. Chain of custody never breaks, even when hearts do. On speaker, Veda reported that #Bluebird stolen was trending, media finally turning. "Justice doesn't need speed," I told her. "It just needs stamina." Lightning tore across the clouds, reflecting in the shattered window above the lab. For a heartbeat, I swore someone still moved inside. "Ghosts don't rest until names are cleared," I whispered. Then the agents turned toward me. The lead read from a tablet. "Marvel St. James, obstruction of federal evidence." Leora shouted, "She's the victim!" Tavian strained against his guards. From one agent's radio, Nerissa's smooth tone poured out. "We appreciate your cooperation, Mrs. St. James." Cold cuffs closed around my wrists. The metal stung, echoing the storm's chill. I steadied my breath. "The trap wasn't digital," I said quietly. "It was procedural." When they scanned my fingerprints, the banner on the monitor flashed, Solenstein, James, alias. My breath caught, but I didn't blink. The officer repeated the name as if reading scripture. "That's not me," I said, keeping my tone even. "That's my daughter. She's been gone for years." They stared like I'd confessed to magic. The booking officer shrugged. "That's what the record says, ma'am." I realized the cruelty wasn't random, it was calculated. They wanted to erase the mother by resurrecting the child. "At my age," I said. "I've outlived clerical errors. I don't let them outlive me." I asked for a supervisor. Pulled out every card I carried. State ID, Medicare, passport. Leora fought to reach Harper. His voice crackled through the speaker. "Say nothing but your name and that you request counsel." I looked at the clerk's screen and saw it, a notarized consent form with my forged signature, time-stamped yesterday. The supervisor arrived, exhausted but curious. Leora handed over documentation, tracing the chain of custody from the lab to intake. "This woman was booked under a dead relative," she said firmly. I leaned in. "Check the scanner log, see the mismatch. That's your proof someone spliced identity records." Harper faxed, of all things, a certified birth certificate and an affidavit notarized years earlier. The young clerk whispered, "Ma'am, this isn't normal." "Neither is stealing a dead girl's voice," I replied. The system finally blinked red, flagging the record as conflicted. That single blink triggered an alert to the district attorney's elder fraud unit. Somewhere in the bureaucracy, the machine hiccuped and truth slipped through the gears. By afternoon, Harper had connected with Veda. She sent a collage of images, a mobile notary seal reused on multiple consent forms, each slightly rotated to trick the eye. "They built a ring," Veda said. "Same emboss pattern, 5 different cities." I examined the photos. One witness name kept appearing, the same that showed on the Savannah storage unit logs. "Fraudsters love convenience," I murmured. "So do subpoenas." Leora ordered a notary registry pull, and there it was. An expired commission used just last month. "We've got them," Harper said. "Hold tight, magistrate hearing incoming." When they brought me into court, the air buzzed under cheap fluorescent lights. Nerissa's PR staff filled the back rows, phones angled toward me. I sat straight, palms resting flat on the defense table. The prosecutor hesitated mid-sentence. New documents had just landed from the state AG's cybercrimes unit. Harper rose. "The defense moves to dismiss with prejudice," he said. "Our client's identity was hijacked. The so-called consent forms are forgeries tied to an active notary fraud ring." The judge called a sidebar, then returned, face unreadable. "Charges will be reviewed pending correction of identification." I turned to the cameras. "My name," I said clearly, "is Marvell St. James." "Spell it right." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. "Respect," I added softly, "is free for those who can afford honesty." Then came the reversal. The district attorney stood, his tone clipped. "All charges are hereby withdrawn. A joint investigation into Bluebird LLC and associated entities is now active." Gasps filled the room. Leora's affidavit entered evidence, linking every false signature from Savannah to Atlanta. Outside, Veda streamed live from the courthouse steps, showing overlays of my real signature beside the forged one, the hashtag #hashname. Warrior Who Write trended by sundown. Church friends, neighbors, former students flooded the feed, correcting every headline. Harper leaned close. "Seizure warrants are printing. We'll be moving by nightfall." That evening, the fellowship hall glowed with soft light and the smell of coffee. Folding chairs lined the room. Casseroles covered the tables. Pastor Micah said a prayer, then handed me the microphone. "I won't take long," I said us. "They tried to steal my daughter's voice, then my name. But names matter." The crowd hummed agreement. I passed around community letters, proof of my handwriting from decades of bake sales and PTA minutes. "If you loved Solène," I said, "don't repost a ghost. Post the truth." Calla stood beside me, holding up Solène's silver bracelet, its weight catching the light. For a moment, the hall felt alive again. In the back room, We gathered around a folding table. Leora, Harper on Zoom, Veda, and Kala. We divided the fight, legal filings, media drops, data preservation, community calls. We win by staying organized longer than they stay loud, I said. Harper mapped warrants. Veda prepped an educational video on deep-fake grief scams. The pastor offered his church phone tree for witness verifications. I could feel momentum replacing fear. Near midnight, Leora's phone buzzed. Encrypted alert. Agents are staged. Bluebird's loft lights just flickered on CCTV. Harper confirmed the judge had added elder exploitation enhancements to the charges. I tied my coat, slipped the bracelet into my pocket, its metal warm from my hand. Grief taught me patience, I said. Fraud taught me precision. When we stepped outside, the sky glowed orange. Sirens wailed faintly downtown. Veda looked up from her phone. Fire reported at the Peachtree co-working suite, she said. Sprinklers active, Leora cursed. They're torching the evidence. My phone vibrated. A single message from Solen's number. Home? I looked toward the reflection of flames on the glass towers and whispered, then we go bring her there. Before dawn, the street outside Peachtree shimmered with police lights reflecting off wet asphalt. Agent Rowan stood by the SUV, clipboard in hand, saying, warrants are signed, evidence orders ready. I climbed into the passenger seat beside him. I wasn't hiding. I was bearing witness. At my age, I told him. You don't send, you show. Leora checked her body cam. Harper coordinated the chain of custody kits by phone. Veda sat in the back seat, setting a 2-minute delay on her live stream. You'll get the truth in real time, she whispered. I texted Kala. We go get her voice. The sirens died as we neared the building. Sprinklers still dripped where the fire had been, smoke curling into dawn. You can burn a room, I murmured, but you can't burn a ledger. Inside the glass co-working space, the air smelled like wet wiring. Agents in gloves worked in silence, tracing every cord. Leora pointed to the fiber trunk we'd followed yesterday, still faintly warm. Someone pulled it mid-transfer, she said. I began reading out serial numbers, slow and steady, for the audit log. The forensics team mirrored the drives while Veda overlaid the spectrogram from that awful fake duet. Mom, I don't have much time. Then a low ping came from beneath the floor panels, a hidden nuke, blinking like a heartbeat. My beacon, home. The mirrored endpoint I'd set up months ago through my home router. It had quietly recorded the hackers' credentials when they tried to destroy the data. If thieves love midnight, I said, smiling thinly, mothers love backups. By sunrise, we moved to the partner loft. Nerissa herself opened the door, sunglasses hiding what little conscience she had left. Agent Rowan read the warrant while Harper listed the charges. Identity theft, bio-tampering, RICO, elder fraud. Leora displayed the forged consent forms. The notary seals rotated just enough to fool a scan. It was a tribute, Nerissa hissed. Tribute asks permission. I said agents bagged burner phones, cash cards, and a binder titled Grief Marketing Strategy. I signed the property receipt neatly, each letter mine. Marketing isn't ministry, I told her quietly, and theft isn't love. By mid-morning, we stood on the courthouse steps. Microphones bloomed like lilies before me. Pastor Micah waited behind, hand steady on my shoulder. I played 5 seconds of Solen's untouched voice. Trust no mirrors. Then I showed the forged consent beside my true signature from a deed. Veda split the screen on her tablet, our home beacon log, the notary ring diagram, and a list of elders defrauded by Tribute AI. I faced the cameras. Spell my name right, pay back what you stole, and leave our dead in peace. The DA stepped up, announcing federal asset freezes, RICO filings, a hotline for victims. We don't do revenge, I said. We do receipts. Evening came softly. My living room glowed gold through half-drawn blinds. I placed the image drive beside Solen's silver bracelet. Leora verified the checksum. Harper confirmed the court seal. I pressed play on our old camcorder, 30 seconds of her real laugh, unedited, pure. Kala's shoulders shook, and I let her cry. We're not deleting evidence, I said. We're deleting permission, together. We revoked every Bluebird license tied to Solen's name. My house, once haunted by recordings, finally fell quiet. My house won't host a ghost that never asked to be here. By nightfall, we'd joined Pastor Micah again. He opened a small fund for families who couldn't afford lawyers. Veda posted a guide teaching seniors how to recognize grief deepfakes. Harper filed civil RICO. Liens hit Nerissa's penthouse before sundown. Lyora locked the evidence copies in the DA's vault. I kept mine in my safe. Justice writes checks, I said, but character decides where they go. Later, under the rosebush, I buried one encrypted copy sealed in brass marked, "Her voice." True. I didn't bury the truth. I archived it with grace. Calla laid the bracelet across the marker for one heartbeat, then put it back on her wrist. The night air carried my daughter's laughter faintly, like wind through leaves. Closure isn't forgetting, I whispered. It's choosing what we keep. Before bed, I scrolled through messages. Widows, veterans, choir ladies, all thanking us. One from a woman in Macon read, "You gave me my husband's voice back, the real one." Agent Rowan texted that first plea deals had started. I brewed tea, turned off the lamp that once burned through sleepless nights, and let the darkness settle without fear. Tomorrow I'd stand before a room full of grandmothers, teaching them how to keep their names and their dead out of anybody's mouth that night. As the church bells faded, my phone lit up again, an unknown number. Same code Solen once used, a single voice clip downloaded, her laughter layered with static and a whisper. They're building another one. I stared at the waveform trembling on screen. Was her ghost warning me or returning?